clock is now working. This gear is the problem. It's pretty shot. I mean, it's just completely disintegrated. Oh, look at that, my laptop screen talking to me. making all kinds of sounds. Anyway, this is the problem. Gear, nylon gear, fell apart. I was gonna put a light in this clock, but the light I was gonna use here fell apart, and it's also dark, so it didn't put out too much light. And the other one, the wires I ended up putting on it aren't long enough, so I'll do that. There's a little post down there I was gonna put. Sorry for the lighting. Maybe I should turn on the light. That's better. This clock is working. The Sunbeam. This is the clock from the video worn out gear, 1965 Sunbeam mini electric grandfather clock. It's working. It's showing the correct time against my other Sunbeam clock. This one I never had to fix. This is a 1975 model. This clock's working great now. Bakelite case. Bakelite back. Sticker on the bottom is disintegrating too, so I put some tape. I can't run it horizontally because of the gear I used isn't quite 100% put in right. It's put in right, but you see there's a bigger part of the gear. The gear I use is from a cassette deck, mini battery-powered portable cassette deck. Or at least that's what I think it's from. And it's a 10-tooth gear, same size as this, but it's the inside part of the gear and the outside part is only a little bit bigger, and I left the outside part on. The original gear I was going to use is from a junky old quartz clock. Well, I mean a quartz clock, I should say. I wouldn't say it was old, but I would say it was junky. The clock itself was made nice. The movement was extremely cheap, though. So that gear, I'm like, where's that gear? Down in the basement, it was on the table. Apparently when I was moving something, it got knocked off. Then here comes the office chair. I feel a bump. I look at what I ran over. Figured I might run over a screw or something. I'm like, great, I ran over the gear I was going to use. But I found this one later on. So yeah, it's working. It's keeping perfect time. Pendulum's running nice and smooth. They bought this clock for, I think it was like $3 at Goodwill. Actually, the sticker was on the face. Let me use a mini mag light. The LED light's dying. See, there's still sticker residue I never actually got off. Because once I found out this clock wasn't working right, I just kind of let it. I didn't ever clean it up or anything. Basically, what I have here is a clock that had a disintegrated nylon gear on the rotor. Because of the cheapness of this style movement, it was very easy to replace. Because everything's held together by the two halves of the movement. Actually, the two halves of the movement that hold the gears and everything on are also the field coil for the motor. The pendulum doesn't keep time or anything. It's just mainly there to show that the clock is running. And I guess you could use it as a second hand because every time it goes to one side is 1 second. Every cycle, which is it goes like from here to here to here, that's 2 seconds. So I guess you could say it's kind of like a second hand. It does have a spot for the second hand to go right there, but there is never a second hand with this clock. I was thinking about putting one on, and I'm like, you know, I'll leave it original. You hear it has a nice hum. If you hear a background noise, that would be my West clocks. That grinding noise. One thing I thought was weird is most of these clocks I've seen, this exact one had a brown cord. This one has a white cord. It's a little scuffed up. Yeah, the light's actually gonna work. Kinda. See, there's some scuffs, some sticker residue. Stay. Flashlight wanted to fall over. It's a cute clock. It's made out of Bakelite. On the back here, made out of Bakelite. Bakelite set knob. It has a spot to hang it on the wall, but I had it hung on the wall for testing it and when I first got it, but I just keep it on the dresser now. When I first got this at Goodwill, it was running good. It was noisy. I think it was still losing time, but I don't think it was losing time that much. I think it might have been missing like a half a tooth from a gear, so it would, most of the time it would work, but once in a while it would skip. Or maybe one tooth is just a little worn down, so it would like skip every once in a while, but it was still keeping time. Pendulum was moving smoothly. Or at least it seemed to be moving smoothly, but I had it kind of half on its back, so I couldn't really tell. And I'm like, that's kind of weird that I had this clock plugged in for 2 minutes, but it barely moved. But I figured maybe when I felt the set knob, I figured, you know, it's probably just stiff. Maybe it needs some time to work in. Maybe it needs an oiling. I brought it home. I opened it up. I saw that gear, and I'm like, oh great, that gear looks pretty interesting because I have an intermatic timer, a vintage one I'm trying to fix with that problem, with the gear. I'm going to try and get to that probably this weekend. So, I'm like, that gear looks wonderful, but I figured it might be just worn a little bit. It might still work for a while. Or at least a little while. So maybe I can find a new gear to put on it. Nope, we're not going to do that. We're just going to completely fail. It was the pendulum was going like this. With the revolution of the motor. Every one revolution the pendulum would stop for partial of a second, like a fraction of a second. It'd take like 2 seconds for the pendulum actually, but at this point it took about 2 seconds for the pendulum to go one full cycle. But it also took me 20 minutes to get the clock back together because I had to, it was tricky. I had this opening and closing this clock down to a, let's say, an art. That I have, like I could do this with my eyes closed with this clock at this point. So, yeah. And it's losing, and I figured, it's losing some time. I open it up, I'm like, that gear is just going. It's very brittle. And then after a few months later, I put it in storage, and I forgot about it. I took it out 6 months later. Excuse the noise, that's my bird. Feathers, shut up. And I'm like, that gear looks bad. I pulled it off, the movement apart, pulled that gear off. I went like that, and went like that. After I pulled it off the motor shaft, and it completely crumpled. So that's all I have left of it. I have the rest of it stuck on some Scotch tape somewhere that I'm going to keep just to show what happens to these clocks. That, and it's kind of cool. Maybe I could use it as a spacer, but I don't think it's going to last much longer. I think it's about to crumple. And probably actually crumple it. I don't want to do that yet, though. So, yeah. Anyway, now the clock's working. The gear is from a minute counter and from a cassette player. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. And that is, this clock is now working. I'll make a more detailed video maybe more, maybe shorter actually, one later, and I'll show how the pendulum works for those of you who don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching.